Something's wrong with the G diffuser.
You'll be sorry, punk!
Star Fox time.
Do a barrel roll! You're becoming more like your father. Let's rock and roll!
Star Fox! I love Star Fox, you love Star Fox, but more importantly, Sir Toasty loves Star Fox. Star Fox is a franchise that I've covered before and gets a decent amount of attention online, but there are two games that I feel always seem to slip by unnoticed. The fanfiction Fever Dream Star Fox Command, and today's game, Star Fox Assault. Developed by Namco and released in the first quarter of 2005, Assault was the first Star Fox game made by a company not directly owned by Nintendo, as well as the first and only to feature the oft-criticized land segments. Could have been worse though. Could have had the voice of this thing doing the voice for Fox.
Who am I? I'm Fox. Fox McCloud.
Yeah, that was the thing that actually almost happened.
And don't forget it.
Okay.
Oh, and first-person shooting. But thankfully, Namco touched up the game after its terrible reception at E3 2003, and the result is still the most critically panned Star Fox game. Now, I get that a lot of people weren't huge fans of the game when it first came out, but I actually remember really enjoying it. I loved the R-Wing segments, I loved playing multiplayer with friends, I especially loved the music. The music was probably the best part of the entire game, and it kind of bums me out that nobody ever seems to talk about it. And now that you and the music have been properly acquainted, you can go ahead and leave your pants at the door. They've obviously been blown off by the sheer amazingness of the music, so... yeah. Star Fox time! Assault doesn't waste any time in throwing you right into the thick of a space battle between the Cornerian army and that one guy from Star Wolf that no one remembers. And what the... oh, what happened to his voice? To be honest, this is where the first major criticism comes into play. The sound design. To be fair, Fox sounds fine, Falco sounds fine, Wolf, Crystal, etc. It's not necessarily that all of the voice actors sound bad, it's really just the audio in general. But more on that later. Back to the action, it turns out that Andrew Oikini, Andros' nephew, I guess, Andros being the villain of the last game and the game before that, is waging war against the Cornerian army because reasons. And it's up to Team Star Fox to take him out. Fox and Slippy are clearly pretty psyched, but I'm not so sure about Crystal and Falco. You know that thing where you're like hanging out with friends, but one of your friends invites their significant other and the two of them clearly just had a pretty bad argument, and so you're kind of just like standing there as this wave of awkwardness permeates the entire area and makes everything super uncomfortable? Yeah, that's what this is like. And to further prove my point, the game is full of all sorts of painfully awkward moments where both Crystal and Falco try flirting with Fox to make the other jealous.
By yourself? It's too dangerous. I'm going too.
No.
Rejected!
Let me know if you get lonely and I'll drop by.
Nah, all I need is the Landmaster.
Rejected!
Be careful, Fox.
You too, Crystal.
Before every mission, there's a pre-battle conference call that goes on somewhat similarly to the ones in Star Fox 64. Only this time, you've got a ton more cringeworthy dialogue and a lot of awkward, unnecessarily animated body movements. So naturally, here are some of my favorites.
General Pepper! Oh no! He's in serious trouble.
Stop. Play your games. I'm running. Strangers' minds. Stop.
You know it.
But awkward animations aside, I have to admit, I am definitely digging the change to character design. As much as I can appreciate the iconic look of past Star Fox games, it is nice to see every character finally look distinct from the other. Fox has got this sweet vest and is even sporting a tiny pair of knee pads. Falco's wearing this fresh red jumpsuit along with some ridiculously huge shoulder pads because everyone knows the bigger your shoulder pads, the cooler. Crystal's got these entrancing little beads on her hair that bob around and make me feel like a cat wanting to paw at them like, meh, meh. And Slippy, well, Slippy's still got his signature hat, so That's cool. Even better than the new character costumes, however, are the ship designs. To this day, no other Star Fox game has done a better job of making everything look absolutely awesome. The R-Wings look sleek and deadly, the Wolfen design is amazing, and the Great Fox looks better than ever. Everything is just so stylishly designed, but I'll be here gushing all day if I don't shut myself up, so back to the game. And then Assault blasts off in true Star Fox fashion with the SF crew racing through the seemingly endless hallway to the launch station. And I'll be damned if this doesn't get my nostalgia glands? Ew. Pumping. And even though this game doesn't ever quite capture the magic of the 64 version, those nostalgic sensations are going to be a bit of a theme here. If only because of, again, the music. Now, I get that Slippy here is supposed to be the comic relief as per usual by jumping into his R-Wing like a complete doof, but if you pause the moments where Falco does a seemingly super swagalicious, I can't believe I just said that, Falcon jump into his R-Wing, you'll see who the true comic relief character is.
Piece of...
Is this guy.
Get some.
As far as first levels go, Mission 1 does a pretty amazing job at leaving a solid first impression. Brilliantly climactic music that immediately gets you in the mood to blast evil space monkeys with your spaceship in, you know, space? Check. An insanely massive space armada to fight your way through? Check. Slippy being Slippy? Check.
Here we go! Hey, Slippy, get cocky.
Look, Crystal, I get that you're having relationship troubles with Falco and everything, but taking your frustration out on Slippy? That's not cool, man.
Beat it.
Rude? I have to say, even though it's been a full decade since this game first released, I'm still kind of blown away by the sheer scale of everything. Just look at the visual attention to detail. Some designer took the time out of his busy schedule to show this guy being jettisoned from his rocket ship and thrust into the infinite abyss of space until he probably eventually freezes or starves to death, unless he's lucky enough to be hit by a passing laser beam or another ship or something. Now that's polish. But as much as I adore the music and artistic direction, the sound design in general is just, Everything sounds tinny and poorly compressed, especially in comparison to its 64 counterpart. I mean, let's just do a quick comparison. Even when the characters are just talking, it never really sounds right. I'm not sure if that's meant to reflect the sound of space or the reverberation of their vocal waves bouncing against the glass of their R-Wing, or the staticky compression of the digital feedback from the micro. Have I made it clear yet? I have no idea what I'm talking about. It's so jarring to see these awesomely designed spaceships and beautifully orchestrated musical tracks accompanied by these, sound effects. Just like, what happened? And then there's the feeling of impact. Back when Star Fox 64 released with the first ever Rumble Pack, the feeling of impact was palpable. When you hit something, you felt it. But then you take damage in Star Fox Assault and it's like a gentle spring breeze softly caressing your cheek. And when you blew something up in Star Fox 64, you f***ing lived it. In Star Fox Assault, it feels pretty dinky. Just compare this boss to this boss.
What the heck?
But all things considered, I still think the visual polish and music score more than make up for these shortcomings. Back to the story, Fox and friends confront Oikini as he unveils his ship's secret weapon, a sweet cel-shaded-esque knockoff of the villain from the last game, Andross.
I must bring an end to our relationship!
But considering he clearly doesn't have the brains to rule Lilat, see what I did there? Fox takes him out pretty easily when suddenly, it turns out that Oikini wasn't the main villain after all, but rather, and so it's up to Star Fox to collect the core memories and save the universe from bug aliens. But not without the help of everyone's favorite new character, Slippy's dad. To his credit, he does seem to be the only guy still rocking the ascot, so yeah, respect. That pencil mustache is freaking me out though. Can amphibians even grow hair? Did he literally just scribble that on himself with a permanent marker? Weird. He explains to us that in order to learn more about how to defeat the aperoids, we need to gather a complete specimen, meaning whatever we were able to collect last time is basically useless. Great. After receiving a distress call from the planet Katina, they decide to send Fox in solo, because that's obviously a good idea.
It's a trap.
It's here that we're introduced to the previously mentioned land battles, and they play interestingly. To be honest, I don't totally agree with all the criticisms. I mean, Fox doesn't control amazingly well on land, but once you get used to the controls, they're not terrible. Wow, I'm really not doing a great job selling anyone on this, am I? Even though the movement is a tad stiff and there is definitely some fun to be had mowing down enemies with a machine gun or bazookaing bigger aperoids with the comically oversized rocket launcher.
Bang, bang.
Peppy, send me a landmaster, will you?
Huh, even Fox thinks fighting on foot sucks. Whoa, wait a second. Where'd Fox go? Oh. The Landmaster in this game is used exclusively for land missions, and although it is a bit chunky monkey for my taste, I have to admit it feels pretty good to be super overpowered in comparison to fighting by yourself. Pretty much everything dies in just one hit. You can even ram into these little goobers, murdering them on sight. And hang on, just gotta save Crystal here. And here we go. Okay. Come on, just a little. Hold it. This is awful. Now, another big problem with the land segments is that the mission structure is basically always the same. Find the targets, eliminate the targets. And the targets are almost always these static landmine things. But later on, they do up the challenge by giving these landmine things power shields that you can only get rid of if you take out more static landmine things, so yeah? The coolest land segments are the ones where you can switch between R-Wing and Landmaster, and to be fair, these do make up most of those missions, but there's seldom ever much incentive to switch from foot to R-Wing, considering the only reason you ever need to use the R-Wing during land missions is to keep your enemy gauge from maxing out, otherwise you die, I think. To be honest, I never really had much difficulty completing the level before the gauge filled, so I ended up never having to use the R-Wing, because I'm just pro like that. But the most fun part of going through all that annoying target seek and destroying is afterward when you get to take on a boss. Unless we're talking Saria or the second to last mission in the game, both of which are just, ugh. Once we finish taking out the giant enemy crabwalker, it's revealed that we were once again set up, this time by Pigma Dengar himself. You all remember Pigma, right?
Too bad Dad's not here to see you fail.
Yeah, that Pigma. It turns out he was the one who set up the distress signal and has now showed up to steal the core memory from right under Fox's nose. Because I guess the rest of Team Star Fox just went out for space smoothies or something. Ace job, team, ace job. This is why I'm the leader, not any of you idiots. I'm looking at you, Slippy.
I'm gonna be rich.
Wait, is that a kawaii desu pigurus? Okay, that is now my favorite thing about this game. Second favorite being the guy being shot out of his spaceship. The next mission is one of my personal favorites because
No mercy.
Double kill.
this is the mission where we get to fight Starwolf. And by fight Starwolf, I mean blow them up in the span of 5 seconds.
Enough small talk. Let's settle this, Fox.
I just did. I literally just killed you. We discover that Pigma apparently wasn't attractive enough for Starwolf and is therefore no longer a member, having been replaced with an animal version of Antonio Banderas, Panther Caruso, who of course seems to have a thing for Crystal. And it seems like Falco is a little bit jealous. Panther gives us Pigma's location and then Team Starwolf blasts off again. We then make our way to Ficina, where yada yada snowstorm, yada yada power shield blocking the access station and keeping us from turning off said snowstorm, yada yada destroy power core so that we can get in. Once we're inside, it turns out we were tricked again, and Fox has to fend off sentry bots until Falco arrives.
Hey, when am I gonna get to that control center?
Yeah, when? Is that seriously an inner dialogue someone has, or are you just being an ass?
Eat this, scumbags! Falco!
Okay, that was kind of really cool.
Wow, that was a flashy entrance.
And so begins one of my favorite shooting segments, standing on the wing of a plane and blasting the crap out of enemy ships. And that's it. It's really as simple as that. I like it. It reminds me of an arcadey shoot 'em up, which I'm all about. Unsurprisingly, Pigma shows up, reveals he's the brains behind the operation, and we're left to take out this spider capsule blast by shooting a nuke in its mouth. Afterward, Fox reflects on Peppy's words of wisdom and gazes longingly up at the sky. Okay, is Fox secretly sorapining for Wolf? Did this love square just evolve into a love pentagon? Again, unsurprisingly, it turns out that Pigma isn't in control after all, but is actually being used by the aperoids. And it's finally time to take him out, once we've fought our way through an asteroid belt and secret aperoid base. Apparently, taking a cue from Resident Evil 4's horrifying mutations, Pigma is absorbed by the aperoids and turned into a giant face monster. With that out of the way, the Star Fox team is just about to head to the Aperoid home planet to take out the Queen when we're interrupted by an impromptu trip to Dinosaur Planet, and a mission that honestly feels like it was made purely for the sake of validating Star Fox Adventure's existence. Otherwise, it's completely pointless, except for the best line in the entire game.
Falco, Slippy, airborne enemies are all yours. Gotcha. Try not to make a mess of things, Slippy.
You're the rest, Falco. Seriously. Shut your beak for once.
After saving Dinosaur Planet for a second time, we decide to leave. Having wasted time saving Saria, it turns out that now Corneria is under attack. So we of course have to go save that planet too, and oh no! My R-Wing just exploded! That's a thing that happened. Yeah! Okay, not to ruin the moment here, but let's just take a quick look at what would realistically happen if Fox fell from this height. Okay. But it's fine, thanks to Wolf, who rescues us because blah blah, if anyone's gonna kill Fox, it's gonna be him, etc, and not because he's obviously in love or anything.
Right.
We then begin our second and final on-rails blaster segment, one that I find super fun not only because of the shoot-'em-up gameplay, but because it lets us see more banter between Star Fox and Star Wolf, resulting in some absolute gems.
Oh no. One of my favorite cafes got totaled.
Sorry about what happened earlier, Fox.
It's got a wing that you got there.
Shut your trap, Lizard, or you and I are gonna scrap.
Wow, take me for a ride someday.
Quit your croaking, Toady.
Once again, proving the dialogue is one of the game's greatest strengths. But before we can get too comfortable listening to Crystal Burn Panther, this mission's boss arrives in the form of General Pepper? Not General Pepper! Anybody but oh, whatever, let's just kill him. This is actually surprisingly dark for a Nintendo game. The good general is basically begging for us to take his life instead of having to witness himself murder all of his friends, a helpless puppet of the Aperoids. It's almost enough to bring a tear to my eye. Until I remember that we're all just anthropomorphic space animals fighting to save our galaxy from space bugs. We take out General Pepper's awesome flying mech, and just when I think we're finally rid of the old hound, Peppy comes out of nowhere and saves him, even after a giant explosion. Wolf then gives Fox some cool guy cryptic advice and flies off, leaving him to ponder what he could have meant. Is it possible this advice will end up playing an integral part near the end of the game? Yes. The answer is obviously yes. The next mission is pretty funny, if only because of the generic dog soldiers.
Commander!
We'll stop him here.
Commander!
We'll protect the gate.
Commander!
They're adorable.
Thanks. The more we destroy, you all right, Crystal?
Thanks for asking, Fox.
Also, teaming up with Star Wolf to take down a fleet of enemy missiles, culminating in the destruction of one giant missile ain't too shabby either. This can also be incredibly nerve-wracking and intense if played on the highest difficulty, like I am. Mission 9 is literally the worst stage and has the most absurd difficulty spike in the entire game. It's one giant map with various buildings, levels, and maze-like halls filled to the brim with enemies who will just feast on your health. I originally played this on silver medal mode, and it was no joke. And what really makes the difficulty so absurd is that there isn't a single checkpoint in the entire level, meaning if you die, you have to do it all over again. That means going through every maze room and taking out every single enemy, shield generator, and hatcher all over again, and it's just... Also, the mission starts off with a motivational speech by Slippy's dad of all people, the emotional impact of which can be summed up in a single shot by the Falco footcam. But after we've finished that, we're on to the final mission, taking out the Aperoid Queen. But not without one last sacrifice.
Peppy, you can't die! Back off, all of you!
Peppy, you mustn't. Yes, this is my duty. And now you must fulfill your duty as well, Fox.
Okay, I'd be lying if I said this didn't move me. Even if it is an old southern rabbit man whose claim to fame is shouting tutorials at us in Star Fox 64 we're talking about here, there's still something about seeing Peppy sacrifice himself and the Great Fox as they come crashing down that just gets to me. Whoa, wait a second. Where's Rob?
Double up a dub dub! Ricky Ticky Tappy, yeah!
This might have been a bad idea.
Well, that's a mood killer. The final mission is thankfully a traditional on-rails R-Wing segment. The game started out strong and now it's gonna end strong. Fox and team worked their way through the Aperoid, I don't know, core? Is that where we are? I've honestly kinda zoned out by now. And of course, Wolf and friends show up out of nowhere, which I'm totally fine with. Even though, I mean, come on. We saw the gate close and everything. Whatever. Mission 10 throws everything at you, from an onslaught of enemy drones to giant metal blades and even easily avoidable pink barriers.
These attacks are intense. It shows how far we've come.
All before finally reaching the Apparate Queen at last, who attempts to trick us with subterfuge. And it really is a surprisingly chilling scene. The way the Apparate are so intent on consuming everything for the sake of a so-called perfect evolution, and how their queen attempts to deceive by taking advantage of human, or in this case, animal humanoid emotion, is pretty disturbing. She even goes so far as to pretend to be Fox's dead dad. I mean, I have to say, that's taking it a bit too far. Apparoid Queen? More like Apparoid Mean. The final battle is a pretty simple two-parter. All you have to do in phase 1 is break apart her armor and shoot the core. Pretty standard stuff. But can I just say, I'm loving the aesthetics of this room. The contrast between this and the typical dark, glowy, obnoxiously purple aesthetics from before make this room stand out a ton. And it just fits. This is what I'd expect the heart of the planet to look like, if that makes any sense. A large open room with a glossy white exterior and a shimmering silver surface in the shape of some sort of artificial sea, the contents of which lead nowhere but the infinite depths of space itself. And that's my pretentious attempt at poetry for this video. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Once we've damaged the queen enough to launch the self-destruct program into her core, we move on to part 2. Chasing the queen down a rabbit hole to seemingly nowhere, shooting what I can only imagine are her boobs. And that's it. We shoot her boobs and the universe is saved.
Thank you.
And that's Star Fox Assault. I have to admit, going back to it after so many years, I did still really enjoy myself. And while it's by no means a perfect Star Fox game, it has a lot of obvious flaws, I still don't agree with all the criticism it seems to get. I mean, it has a good bit of polish, it has some cool ideas, and most importantly, it's a lot of fun. Like I already mentioned 1,000 times, I thought the soundtrack was amazing, I dug the art design more than any other Star Fox game, and as a kid who grew up with Star Fox 64, it was strangely satisfying to team up with Star Wolf. And all things considered, I'd have to argue that Star Fox Assault did do a pretty good job living up to the legacy of Star Fox 64. Even though literally no one will agree with me on that. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, why not hit like? You can also feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter and like me on Facebook. I've got a few videos right there for you to watch. You can check one out on Star Fox 64, and I also made a review on Putt-Putt Goes to the Moon, because that's relevant, right? Did you guys notice the Putt-Putt Easter eggs in this video? Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.